iHeartRadio presents Podversations, a weekly discussion with the biggest names and influencers in podcasting.
Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for another edition of the iHeartPodcast Speaker Series. For anyone who's joining us for the first time, we started to do these about 2 years ago now, where once a week we would take a second, sit down, and talk to a creator that we were in partnership with, making podcasts. And we would talk to that person about what drove them creatively, what their background was, why they chose podcasting as a new medium sometimes for them to focus on. We started this a couple of years ago when we were all sort of moving into quarantine, and it was a simple way to try to stay connected through the amazing technology of virtual interviews. But this has turned into some of my favorite parts of the week, where I get to talk to creators about what drives them, where they started, and this week is no exception. Cheryl Burke, first of all, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I think you go in the bucket of guests that like genuinely need no introduction.
No, that is not true. Probably all the men who are watching this definitely need it. So
maybe, but I'll give a bit of an introduction anyway. First of all, I'll start at the end. You're starting a podcast with the iHeartPodcast network called Burke in the Game. Burke in the Game. But going way back, you are a Bay Area native. You've been dancing for over 25 years. You're Emmy nominated. You're a 2 times winner of the Mirror Ball Trophy on Dancing with the Stars. I want to go way back to the beginning again.
Way back.
Bay Area native. So I come from Berkeley, California, right around there. What about you? Where'd you grow up?
Like Palo Alto, Atherton area. So I'm a Menlo Atherton High School student, or was a student. Yeah, alumni. So
see, this is always the interesting part. So you grow up there, and I'm not outing any ages or anything, okay, but I imagine
I'm 38.
Okay. So I imagine you grew up there in a different kind of Palo Alto, not one that was filled with big tech and not
like
one that
Silicon Valley. Yeah.
So what's that like when you go home?
Right. So it's interesting. There's lots of Teslas everywhere. Everyone is not as high strung as here in Los Angeles. And it's not that far away. You know, my mom and dad, they've been racking up those Southwest miles, and they always come to every single show and dance. And I've done 25 seasons. So they're huge fans of Dancing with the Stars. They've got those Southwest miles. And I don't mind going home. I love it. I kind of love the slow pace compared to like here in Los Angeles. So it's nice to visit. I plan on visiting them again soon. So
did big tech change your hometown a lot?
Oh, did it? Oh my goodness. Yes. I actually had a dance studio in Mountain View and one in San Francisco called Cheryl Burke Dance, which we eventually closed down. This was years ago because there was no Cheryl Burke in the Cheryl Burke Dance as I was busy shaking my bonbon on television. So yeah, people were like, where's Cheryl? Can't be at 2 places at once. But my mom helped me with that. And it was interesting because yes, there was a lot of Silicon Valley students that would come in on the Mountain View side. And yeah, it's definitely different, right? People don't even go to dance studios anymore. They just dance from home on a new app, you know? So like you could teach dance now through a computer screen, which is insane. Wow. Yeah, it's insanity.
Wow. So like when you were a kid, you could not learn dance through a computer screen.
No.
And if I have my facts right, you started dancing when you're 6 years old.
4, same thing.
4 years old. So was the first kind of dance that your parents put you into ballet? Is that right?
That is right. Yes. And then I literally grew out of my tights. I developed at a very young age at 9, to be exact, went through puberty. Yeah. And I basically looked the same as I do now when I was 9 years old. And it just didn't feel, I don't know, I just didn't feel like I fit in. And my mom and stepdad at the time, they wanted to find a family sport. So we tried everything from golf, which we didn't choose, and ballroom dancing. And my mom and stepdad at the time, they were like, why don't you try ballroom? And I was like, that is definitely for old people. And I'm not going to be waltzing around with my dad. Like, thanks though. And then they took me to a dance competition in the Bay Area. And I saw kids my age shake their butts and in rhinestones. And they were like interacting with a male.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then the music was fast, lashes, tan. I was like, sign me up. This is great.
But I want to go back to this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old doing ballet. So my own experience with this is my wife did ballet for a long time. Our daughter is now starting to do ballet. I don't know it as well as you, but my experience with it, looking from the sidelines, is ballet is something that is immediately very serious and changes you. You become changes how you carry yourself. And to some extent, it gets in you. And is that something
Totally.
you found too? Like, am I making all that up, or am I
No,
right?
no. It's a very disciplined art form, right? So like the thing with ballet is that there is no room to express your personality or whatever that is. There's no room to have fun. Like, you don't see ballerinas like really letting loose with their hair down, right? It's like full on, there's rules and it's disciplined. And look, I think if anything, the positives from learning ballet at such a young age was that like I had to be on time, and I had to show up, and I had to show up right, like with my outfit on, with my hair slicked back. And it taught me how to stand up straight and body awareness, and I think all of that is very good. What's scary, if I were to ever have a daughter, it's tricky for me because a lot of it is like, okay, I grew up way too fast, and it's just very, you're learning about your body, and like, especially with ballroom, it takes two to tango, so it's like, it's very intimate at such a young age that it would be, unless if I don't need to ever work again and I can follow my daughter around the world, I'm just not so sure I would let my daughter do it. But it's amazing. Ballet is great. No partner required.
Yeah. And so like for you, when did dance become a thing that your parents were making you do, and a thing, and morphed into something that you showed up because you loved it? You immediately felt like, this is me. This is actually what I want to do. Was it immediate, or was there a moment you remember?
Well, my mom, I wasn't very great at school. I wasn't book smart, I guess you can call it, but she put me in every other curricular activity you can possibly think of, from soccer, volleyball, basketball, badminton, bells, like that instrument, bells. Yeah, remember those? And
I do. I had to do bells too, and I'm right there with you. Pretty weird.
Did you ever double do it, like with like the small ones?
And you had the white gloves, and it was a whole thing. It's
no, wait, the only people that wore the white, or maybe we all did, but it was the big daddy one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had successfully forgotten all of that, but here we are. It's right back up front. Okay, great.
Anyway, back to, so dancing was the one thing I never complained about. I loved it from the moment, I put my ballet shoes on, and then I loved it even more as a ballroom dancer. And I guess I've always been this way. It's either all or nothing. And I really wanted to take my ballroom dancing to the next level. So when you first start, you start with a dance teacher. So it's called Pro-Am. I was the amateur. My teacher was a professional. We would dance and compete, right, against other girls my age in that category. And then if you want to take it to the next level, you start to partner up with someone your age. And at 13, I found my very first dance partner, who I was like, had a huge crush on. I was like, oh, I'm going to dance with this guy. And I was like, I'll never forget, I got the phone call, and he was like, okay, we had a tryout, right? So we have tryouts in the ballroom world. And then he was like, I think we should dance together. I was jumping up and down like a little kid on my bed. And I was like, oh my God, it was like the best ever, the best news ever. And then we traveled a lot together, and if you want to take it to the next level, back in the day, it was all in England. The action was in England. So every summer I would go to England and spend like 3 months there, and not always chaperoned, so it's like my mom was busy with work. Obviously, ballroom dancing is not a cheap sport at all. So, it is what it is. But man, I don't regret any of it. I learned so much from traveling. I think that's the best education.
But I want to drill into a point you said there of like, you're at the age of 9, I think you said, sort of moving into ballroom dancing really early. At 13, you're ballroom dancing competitively in England, around the world, let's just say. How did you handle yourself? How did you protect yourself? How did you grow up that fast, but also stay a kid? Was that really hard?
I don't ever remember being a kid, to be quite honest. And I had to grow up fast because here I am, I'm having to take care of myself, really. And My partner was 18, I was 13. We traveled with another couple who was in their teens as well. But like, that's what you did, like you made sacrifices, and there was no, like, I had no friends in school because of it. Like, I remember going to prom and it was with like an acquaintance, right? It was just someone just to go with. And like an Olympian. I'm living like an Olympian, basically, where I went to school because my mom said I had to get over like a B grade, so A's or B's, and then she'd let me travel, right? So that was the motivation. Like, I just wanted to travel, and honestly, if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't have never finished high school, but thank God it wasn't.
There's a vulnerability that comes with this too, though, right? Like, when you dance competitively, you're constantly winning, but you're
judged.
You're judged, you're losing, you're judged. I mean, every time. How do you I don't know, how did you handle that? Like, every single time, is there a muscle you build where you just steel yourself against that, or what is it?
So let's rewind a little bit. I mean, like, we're going to dive deep here for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So before the dancing career happened, I was sexually abused as a little girl. So, and my parents divorced when I was 2. And so there was lots of trauma that happened. And my way of expressing myself was not through communication like this, not through talking. It was through my body language. So that, to me, that now probably sets up the reason why it was so easy for me to want to do this so much, because it was my escape from reality, right? I was in therapy. My mom put me in therapy. I'm a huge advocate. I'm still in therapy to this day. And it's like, it was dancing that got me literally where I am today, because of the way I could express. I was a different person. I had no identity. When I first moved here in 2006, when I joined the second season of dancing, I had an English accent. It was the weirdest thing in the world. Don't know where it came from, but honestly, it was just because I had no identity. And the ballroom competitive world is a man's world still to this day. So very rarely was I asked for my opinion. I couldn't have even tell you my favorite color. It was like, I just followed the leader. And within that, there was lots of pain, I think, from within, because I was shut out in a way and I didn't feel heard. And throughout my whole life, right? So I didn't feel safe. I was constantly in fight, flight, or freeze, constantly. And that adrenaline and up and down. And it was like, who's Cheryl Burke? And dancing, though, was my escape for that minute and a half or however long our dances are. So,
I mean, that is kind of an incredible origin story of this passion of yours, is to say, out of sexual abuse. Again, I don't want to make it oversimplified or put words in your mouth.
No.
This was a way to take back my own body and do something else with it. But did you feel that immediately in dancing, or it's like, wow, I'm in control of this thing now?
No, I didn't even put 2 and 2 together till a few years ago, honestly. I had no idea when everyone was like, oh, it's like your escape. I'm like, escape? What does that mean? Like, I didn't really know that. I just knew it made me feel good. And it was, I think subconsciously, it was my body healing and expressing itself. And everyone was like, you're so shy and you have a little mousy voice. I couldn't do an interview to save my life when I first started Dancing with the Stars. They full on trained me. I mean, it was like full blown training. I needed to learn how to speak and say a complete sentence. But dance for me was like, I was like the real, like, crazy, like, free woman when I was on the dance floor. And then literally 2 minutes later, I'll just be in this like little corner, just like not having an opinion. And it's sad, really, when I think about it, but thank God for movement.
Yeah. What is that training like, to train somebody to be comfortable speaking? Was it brutal? Like, literally just drilling, interviewing with you? How does that like take us behind the scenes a little bit?
So I am also an addict, right? So I am now sober for 3.5 years. I mean, I'm an onion, right? There's lots of layers. And I used to have to drink, right? And it was, no matter what time it was of the morning or day, afternoon, I would always have a drink before. And for some reason, I thought that got me to talk, and it did. But then the thoughts in my head just became really dark, and it was a horrible domino effect where it was like, it just never stopped, right? My dad was an alcoholic. He passed away a few years ago. But like, I just whether it's hereditary or not, I am an addict. And I always thought that alcohol was my vice more than dancing was. I never put dancing as, it was just me. Dancing was me. That was my identity. But like the alcohol, I thought was what made me be more social and go out to these red carpet. I mean, like my goal was never to be on television. I was just going to be a starving dancer. I was living in Harlem before I moved to Los Angeles with my dance partner. And I thought I was going to do one season and return. So it's still hard for me, you know, to really live this Hollywood, not so glamorous lifestyle, but I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm grateful for movement, and I'm grateful for all of it, because I am now being able to, I can now put everything into words and share my story with everyone in hopes to help at least one person, you know.
So not to press the issue, but like, how practically did you manage an addiction like that with such a physical career?
You know, I never thought it wasn't a problem. That's the problem until it was a problem. And I was in denial. Absolutely. Yeah. There was no accountability whatsoever. Even when I was in therapy, I just would catch myself like, I was always like, I'm never going to drink alone. Cut to, I'm drinking alone. And then I'm like always, and then I'm sweating it out when I'm dancing. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm drinking, sweating out all the toxins, come back. I was like a ballroom dancer by day and a club goer by night, 7 nights a week. I was on TMZ every morning. Like, it was embarrassing. The executive at the time of dancing was like, you're going to have to find the back door, because this is just not a good look, you know.
How did you come to a place 3 years ago where something clicked?
My father's death. Because that was when I was engaged as well, but it was more about, I knew that it was going to be a slippery slope. So either I was going to crash and burn, or I was going just to stop. And again, my personality is all or nothing. And when I make a decision, I make a decision. And that's not for everybody, right? I know that. I never went to treatment. I never went to a rehab center. You know, it was just a choice that I made. And also, I remember drinking right when my father passed away, and my ex-husband and we were on our way to the engagement party, and I broke out into hives. And I think subconsciously my body was rejecting the alcohol, like no matter what. So I would try everything. And then my whole face would get red. And I was always, you know, that proud Asian woman who was like, I could drink everything. You don't even see me, you know, turn red. And now it was just like everything was coming out, you know, and it was maybe more for vanity, to be quite honest, than anything, was to why I stopped. And I haven't craved it since, really.
It's incredible. I mean, the way you describe this, the way I'm hearing it, at least, is so much of your life has been told through your body, has been expressed through your body, through your career of dancing, whether it's as a young ballet dancer in the Bay Area, or Dancing with the Stars, or the story you just told about how your body's telling you it's time. But
I think I actually do that. I can communicate better. And I think we all have it, by the way, right? I think we all have it. We just have to, we're so taught in society today to push through, no pain, no gain. You know, it's like, if you have your left ankle hurts, oh, well, you got a right one, you know. And it was like, especially as an athlete, like there is no listening to your body, but our body is so powerful. And the communication, like the language is trying to tell you, what if we didn't try and push through? You know, I think I feel I have arthritis all over my body from pushing through, you know, and I'm only 38. So
I want to steal the last 2-3 minutes of our conversation and talk about podcasting and why you've chosen this medium to at least be one of the next things you try. And I think rock at, because this show is going to be amazing. We have a medium in podcasting that has just been a blast over the last 10 years. It's 120 million Americans a month now listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah. I don't even listen to music anymore. All I do is listen to podcasts.
It's an incredible new way to have a conversation, to tell a story. Yours is going to be just amazing. I think part of it is honestly, it's shocking to hear you say that you ever needed to be trained to have a conversation, because you're just so open and
now I can't shut up.
And willing to be vulnerable about stuff and talk about it. Feels like there's no secrets when the mic is on. Why podcasting? What do you think, at least, is special about this medium, and why did you choose it to launch a show like Burke in the Game?
Well, first of all, I've got a great relationship with you guys, but I started back when my dance partner was AJ McLean a few seasons ago, and we're both sober, and we're both just like saying, why don't we just try this? It's the pandemic. It was the start of the pandemic. We knew we were going to be partners. We're like, oh, this is going to be great. I didn't realize how intimate podcasting is, and in a different way. Like Dancing with the Stars is intimate, right? Like people are voting and like whatever, but this is really intimate. And I seriously had so much pleasure in doing. I told Amy Sugarman from iHeart, I would do this shit for free, because I was like, I love it so much, right? Like it was, don't get any ideas, but I but like it was like so therapeutic. This was like the best therapy session, and I've been in therapy, like I said, for the last decade with the same therapist, weekly sessions consistently, but this is a whole nother level. Wow. I find like it is something I always say, this is going to sound bad, but I need to stop making money by using my body and start using my mouth, because this is the best thing in the world.
We might tweak that a little bit when we come out.
Totally.
I agree. I think there's something strangely awesome about the podcast medium. It feels like when you listen to a podcast, you're almost on a phone call with the host.
Yes.
It almost feels like a one-to-one medium.
So intimate. And it's like, and it's not edited. Like I've been so Disney friendly edited on Dancing with the Stars,
Interesting.
Especially now moving to Disney Plus, it's like, I was just like, really? You couldn't even I couldn't say shit. Like, really? Like, it was part of the whole character of the Paso Doble. But like, this is just like, you see the real, or you hear the real Cheryl Burke behind the mirror ball,
I can't wait. So listen, it has been the best conversations we have in this are surprising and delighting and awesome and authentic. And this has just been one of the most enjoyable we've done, Cheryl. So I really do appreciate you hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Everybody listening, watching, please check out Burke in the Game. It's going to launch later this quarter. It is awesome and worth your time. Cheryl, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Podversations is a production of iHeartRadio. You can find more from the biggest names in podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.